Chapter 9 of Friends and Cousins by Abbie Farwell Brown. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Box of Candy. Although the boys had been disappointed in the kind of treasure which they had found, the Indian relics proved a real treasure after all. The next day Mr. Thornton went over to the island with them, and they brought back a few more stone things from the mound, but nothing so fine as Tom's plow. However, Mr. Thornton said that there might be other interesting things there which they could dig up when they chose. Mr. Thornton was so pleased with the boys' discovery that he paid Kenneth and Charles each $2 for their share of the treasure. But he gave Tom $5 to pay for his plow, and for first discovering the mound, which had once been an Indian picnic place. He said these relics should be used to start an island museum to match the island library, and perhaps someday they would find other things to make the collection more complete. Tom felt very rich indeed. He had never owned so much money in all his life, and he could not decide what to do with it. There are so many things which one can do with $5, especially if one is a boy. But he resolved not to be in a hurry to spend it. There was a famous professor staying at the hotel on the other end of the island, and one day Mr. Thornton said to Kenneth and Charlie, "Boys, I want to take your Indian relics over to the hotel and show them to the professor. I should like to know what he thinks of them. Shall we get Tom and row around there?" Of course the boys were delighted to go. They had not been to the hotel that summer, and usually there were some interesting puppies in the stable. They found Tom in his dory, and presently they were on their way. When they reached the hotel, Mr. Thornton went to find the professor, while the boys started to look for the puppies. But as they went past the piazza, they heard the hotel keeper talking to a group of ladies. "No, there is not a mosquito on the island," he asserted. "That is one of the things of which we are most proud. I will give a 5-pound box of the very best candy to anyone who will find a mosquito on this island." The three boys smacked their lips. "Did you hear that? I'd like that box of candy," sighed Charlie. "I haven't had any for weeks." 5 pounds of candy all at once?" cried Tom. "I never had so much in all my life." "Oh, I have," said Kenneth, "at Christmas time. My, isn't it good? I wish I could find that mosquito, but I suppose no one will. There isn't one on the island, is there, Tom? You ought to know." "No," said Tom, "I never saw one here. I am sure there isn't one." He stopped short with a sudden wicked idea. "There might be, though," he added under his breath. "I couldn't buy 5 pounds of very best candy with my $2, could I, Charlie?" asked Kenneth. "No, but Tom could with his 5 if he wanted to spend the money so," said Charlie. "I don't want to spend the money so," said Tom almost crossly, but how he did long for that candy. The boys did not understand what made him act so queer. He paid very little attention to the 5 lovely puppies in the stable. Even when Mr. Thornton came with the professor, who told them how proud they ought to feel because they had found such an interesting shell mound, praising Tom especially, he did not seem to care. All the way home he spoke scarcely a word. He was thinking of something very different from what the others were saying. When they reached the cove, the boys asked Tom to come and play pirate after dinner, but Tom said, "No, I'm going to be busy this afternoon." "Are you going to hunt for more treasure?" asked Mr. Thornton, laughing. Tom looked queer, but shook his head. "No," he said, I've got an errand to attend to," and that was all he had to say. After dinner, Tom rowed away all alone out into the bay, and he was gone until supper time. When he came back, he'd pulled his boat up on the beach and fumbled in his pocket. He was looking for something so very small that at first he thought he had lost it. But no, there it was, all right. It was a tiny pill box. Tom took off the cover and looked in, grinning to himself. He seemed pleased with his day's work. At the supper table, Tom's mother suddenly bent forward and looked at his face sharply. "Why, Tom," she said, "where have you been to get all bitten up so? You are covered with mosquito bites. You never got them around here. You must have been over to Mouse Island. There are lots of mosquitoes in the swamp there." Tom turned very red. "Yes, I rode over to Mouse this morning. There were 2 young fishhawks in the nest on the old pine tree," he said briefly. "Did the other boys go with you?" asked his mother. "No, I went all alone," he answered, bending his face low over his plate. And then the children began to chatter about something else, for which Tom was glad. The next morning Tom took his dory and rowed around the island to the hotel. When he came up to the piazza, he found Mr. Smith, the hotel man, talking to a group of ladies, just as he had been doing the day before. Tom took off his cap politely and said, "Good morning, sir. I'd like to speak with you." "Hello," said Mr. Smith. "You are one of the island boys, aren't you? Well, what do you want with me, my hearty?" Tom drew something out of his pocket and handed it to Mr. Smith. "What's this? A pill box?" said Mr. Smith, greatly puzzled. "I don't want any pills." All the ladies smiled. "There's a mosquito inside, sir," said Tom. "I heard what you said yesterday, that you'd give a box of candy to anyone who would bring you a mosquito, so I found one for you. He's dead, sir," he added reassuringly, as Mr. Smith hesitated about taking off the cover of the pill box. There was a chorus of laughs at the expression on Mr. Smith's face, but finally he decided to smile. "Well, I am surprised and shocked," he said. "I could have declared solemnly that there was not a wicked mosquito on this island, but I will wager that this is the only one." "Better not make any more rash offers, Mr. Smith," said one of the girls. "You may have to pay for more candy than you bargained for. We will all set out to hunt." "No, I don't repeat my offer," said Mr. Smith hastily, "but I suppose I must pay my debt to our friend here. You come around tomorrow morning, Sonny," he said to Tom, "and get your candy. I'll send to the city for it by Captain Sackett." "Smart boy, isn't he?" said one lady to another, as Tom went away. "He has such an honest face." Tom heard her words, and his ears turned red. But as he rode home, he thought triumphantly, "How good that candy will be!" and he smacked his lips. End of chapter 9.